Okay. Naka-full screen na niya. Okay. So we had already discussed about Lewis structure, okay, and some concepts of covalent bonding. Let us summarize it. The first one is, what is octet rule? Meaning octet rule is a complete elements should have complete 8 electrons in order to form a compound. Palihog i-unmute inyong mga mic mga bata. Ha? Unmute? I-mute. Ikaw na i-mute na. Let me see. Okay, participants, let me mute. Mute all. Okay. So as I have said, okay, that saan naman to? Okay. So as I have said, we had already discussed what is Lewis dot structure, how it is being represented, meaning the groups in every element. What happened there is kanang group, meaning that is equivalent to the outside or the outermost shell electron. Okay, so group 1A, meaning all of that has an S1. Okay, S1. Okay. For group 2, meaning it has how many electrons? Outside, it has 2 until to the preceding. For instance, halogen, that is chlorine, bromine, iodine, fluorine, it has 7 electrons in the outermost shell. And who discovered this? It's Gilbert Newton Lewis. Okay, mabrag yun yung mga Newton, no? Okay, so according to him, the electrons in the element could be represented by dots. Okay, how? That is placing the electrons, the number of electrons in the outermost shell. So this is it. So it needs to have a cut 8 electrons in order to bond with another form into a compound. Either transfer or either sharing of electrons. So that is what is meant by Lewis dot structure. Next, so in order to find, okay, the Lewis dot structure, this is represented in the group. Kani niya, group 1A, group 2A, so on and so forth. Meaning where this group belongs, meaning mo po na number of electrons outside in outermost shell. So find out which group or column your element is, and second, this will tell you the number of valence electron your elements has, and you can draw now your dot or the valence electrons. Okay, so these are groups as a review. That is group 1A, group 2A, so on and so forth. This one here is the noble configuration. These are noble gas. It belongs to 8A. This is 7A, which are halogens. Okay. Then, so each element in a group has same number of elements in their outer orbitals, or known as shell. As I have said, outermost shell. Though they have different atomic number, but their outside electrons will be the same. So, in 1A, tanan na siya ang outside electron is 1. In 2A, tanan na sila ang outside electrons is 2. This 7 here, how many electrons? 7. This here, 8 electrons. Okay. So the electrons in the outer shell is called as valence electron. Okay. So this is group 1. Pila ka book electrons? 1. Group 2, 2 electrons. Group 8, that is 7 electrons. Kani how many? 8 electrons. Group 8, 7 electrons. 6 electrons. 5 electrons. 3, 4, so on and so forth. Okay? So that is how easy to write the Lewis structure. Okay. So how are we going to write the dot? First is write the element symbol. Okay. For instance, carbon. Where is carbon in your periodic table? It is in group 4. Kung group 4, pila ka ba kabuk iyang outside electrons or the valence electron? That is 4. So how are we going to have now the dot? Using dots could be counterclockwise, no? 4 electrons or dots, no? Counterclockwise around the symbol. Start here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Did you get it? How many electrons? Where can we find carbon? At group 4. Kung group 4 siya, pila ka valence electron niya. Then how are we going to write the dot? That is starting with counterclockwise. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So that is now the Lewis structure of carbon. So let us try this. Hydrogen. Atomic number 1. Okay. How many? Where are this in the periodic table? This is in group 1. So only 1 electron. Okay. For phosphorus. Look for phosphorus. Where is phosphorus in your periodic table? What group? Okay. First, okay. There are 5 electrons because it belongs to group 5. Okay? True to. Yan, hisugod ha. It is counterclockwise, not clockwise. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? Another. Calcium. So, look for calcium in your periodic table. Then, you start now placing your dot. Okay? So, your calcium belongs to group 2. Therefore, this will be the dot. Dili bisag asa ibutang ha. It should be in the counterclockwise direction. That is for calcium. Argon. We already know that argon belongs to group 8A. So, how many electrons? Okay, argon. Start counterclockwise. Start kangania. That is 1. 2. Okay. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Una pa dayon dungagan og duha, no? That is una. Start 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then 6, 7, 8. Okay? So that is how it is being done. Dili pwede duha-duhaon una ha, usa-usa sa. Okay. That is Lewis dot. Okay. So here it is. Okay. In group 1, we have hydrogen, lithium, sodium. Okay. On All of these represent one dot because this belongs to group 1A. Beryllium, magnesium, group 2. Then aluminum, then boron, group 3, 3 dots. Group 4, carbon, silicon. Group 5, nitrogen, phosphorus. Oxygen, group 6. Group 7, fluorine, chlorine. And group 8, except helium, it has 8 electrons. That is neon and argon. Okay, that's it. So it's easy to write the Lewis structure. So let us move on. What is, as I have said, in order to form a compound, it needs a link between these two elements, or between this molecule, or between this atom. Okay, so it needs a link. And what is that link? It is a so-called a chemical bond. This chemical bond is the one that binds together our element, adding with another element to form into a compound. So the first type of a bond is known as a chemical bond. Way labot si James Bond. Okay, so in ionic bond, always remember this is a transfer of electron. Transfer of electron. Nga nang i-transfer man yang electron, meaning ang usa ka element sobra ang yang electron. Ang usa ka element kuwang yang electron. No? Kanus aman siya, pila man, it should be 8. This element here, element A should have 8 electrons. This element B should have 8 electrons. Kung kuwang siya, what happened is, if element A is having, for instance, 1A, meaning it has an outside electron of 1. To make it into stable, it needs to transfer its electron to the other one. So what happened? It will lose. Pag mo loss gani siya, what will be the charge? Positive. Ang mudawat, it will gain. Mo gain gani siya, it will have negative. Okay, bali no? Okay, so in ionic bond, electrons are lost or gained, resulting in the forms of ions in ionic compound. Okay, for instance, where is potassium? Potassium belongs to group 1. So it's easy. Group 1. So what will be our dot there? 1 dot. Meaning naa siya sobra nga usa ka electron. No? In our fluorine, fluorine belongs to group what? 7. So place now your dots there. Okay. 7 ka dots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. So, oh, your fluorine here lacks 1 electron. According to octet rule, it should be 8. So what will happen? Therefore, your potassium here, which has an excess of 1 electron, should give it to fluorine. Therefore, your potassium will lose. Okay. Your potassium will lose and 1 electron. Mayong gani kong loss sa to, it will have a positive charge. Okay. Your fluorine will gain how many electrons? 1. So no need in placing 1 there. No need in placing positive 1 here because that is understood that it has 1. Pero kung duha, it should be plus 2. 2 plus. If it is duha nga ni ang mag-gain niya, it will be negative 2. Okay? So it's easy. Let's go back. Let's go back here. Okay. So your potassium, the compound potassium fluoride consists of potassium ion, okay, and fluoride ion. So if you look into this, there is a transfer of 1 electron in your potassium to fluorine. And what kind of a bond is this? It's ionic bond. I repeat, ionic bond is the forming of the compound by what? By transferring an electrons. And either it could either lose or it could either gain an electron. This one loses one electron. This one gains one electron. Let's move on. So the ionic bond is the attraction between a positive potassium ion and a negative chlorine ion. Always remember, ionic bond is being formed by metal and a non-metal. Kayo na a metal and a non-metal. Metal and a non-metal, meaning it is ionic bond. Okay. How about in covalent? Covalent is dili siya dalo. It is a sharing of electrons. So what happened is they will be sharing the electrons between the element in order to conform to the octet rule. Okay, in covalent atoms still want to be like a noble gas, octet rule. But rather than losing or gaining electrons, atoms now are being shared in electron pair. Tagduha na. So, ang ganina, it is metal plus non-metal. It is ionic bond. Basta ionic bond gani, what is it? It is a transfer of electron. And you will form a positive ion and a negative ion. Here, in a covalent, there will be a sharing. So, no loss and gain of electrons. For instance, you have carbon tetrachloride. Carbon tetrachloride has a formula of CH4. So if you talk about CH4, how many carbon? Usa. How many ka-hydrogen? Upat. Okay. Ang hydrogen ra gyud mga bata, ang exemption nga duha ka electrons ra ang maximum. Dili octet. Kay duha ra gyud ang electrons. So what will happen in CH4? So there will be 4 hydrogen. So what happened? It will be shared. Okay. Usa ka hydrogen ngani, usa na po ka hydrogen nganha, usa na po ka hydrogen nganha.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Oops.
Ma'am, magpa-accept daw sila.
Paano yung ma-accept? Sige na ko, yaw-yaw.
Ang uban, ma'am, wala pa kasulod.
Pakasulod. Sa baning tigwa nga, sige lagyaw-yaw. O sige, admit all. Ganahan na, okay na?
Thank you, ma'am.
Sige, admit na ako. Balik ta. I repeat, ang formula nga ni is CH4 or carbon. What is how it is being named? Carbon tetrachloride. Okay. So what happened? Carbon belongs to how many kaning yellow nga dot mauni ang sa carbon? Carbon belongs to carbon group 4. Okay. Pila ka hydrogen? Upat. So i-share sa hydrogen usangan ha. Usa ka hydrogen nga na, usa ka hydrogen, usa ka hydrogen. Okay. Tabunin ng hydrogen. Carbon ray tan-awa. Pila na kabuk electrons ang naa sa carbon? There are already 4. Kung napakunin kaming, sige, liliw pa na to. Admit pa kita. Okay. So, this is what is meant by covalent bonding, meaning sharing of electrons. Okay? Okay. Next. Carbon now has, kani. It conforms to the octet rule, meaning 8 electrons. Okay. So all hydrogen atoms now have 2. Kani tanaw ni mga niya 2 electrons. Ingon bi ako ang hydrogen ra ang element nga 2 ka electrons ang maximum. But the rest it will have 8 electrons. Okay? So that is Lewis dot structure and covalent. So that's it. Napatay time? Kaya ano musunod pataglain? Napa. Okay, so let me move on sa mo ato sa kugkuan. Lain. I will get muna my PowerPoint. WhatsApp mo kayot ha? Ayun sa. Okay, so I hope you had already gained. First is how to write the Lewis structure. The second is the types of chemical bonding. Okay, so let me save this first sa akong desktop. Tapos i-open ako. We will still meet by Monday again. Okay, so new share. Okay. So, sa manana tanan, liliyo pa na to. Basing napay gusto mo sulod, i-admit na to. Masukuon niya. Okay.
Si Chris daw, ma'am, wa kasulod.
Be, kayot. Kaya atong i-admit. Sige lang, kay I will be, kuhaan maning video. Ako maning
Share.
i-share po na ko ning video na to. Kung maninggi, na pa ba? In meeting. Ano naman? Okay. Sige. So, i-unmute ng inyong mga unmute na, unmute ha. Unmute na. So, until we will finish. Okay, so we are now in a review, additional for chemical bonds. Okay, so it's not James Bond, but it has something to do with bond. Okay, so what is a chemical bond? So as we already know, these atoms are the smallest unit of matter. Okay, for instance, helium. This is helium. Unsa ni siya? This is now the valence electron. Kani. How many electrons are there in the outermost shell? There are 2 electrons. Okay, so that is known as valence shell, or that is electron shell. So your atomic number is equal to, basig wa mo kadum baluan ni ha, napangusion ta mo. Ang atomic number is equal to the what? The number of electrons. Okay, electrons vary in the amount of energy. Okay, it will depend on its energy level. The more layo siya sa nucleus, the more taas ang iyang energy level. Okay. So electron shell determines how many atoms behave when it encounters with other atoms. So that is known as valence shell. So your valence shell electron will determine how it will combine or share or transfer electrons. Okay. So electrons are placed in shell according to rules. First, the first shell can be held up. Pila? Una nga shell, 2 ka electrons. Sunod, 8. This hydrogen. Okay. This is carbon. Carbon has 6. Meaning, na ay outermost shell niya pila ka buok? 1, 2, 3, 4. So, it belongs to group 4A. Nitrogen. Okay. Ang outermost may pinakagawas nga shell. Pila ka electrons? How many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, it belongs to what? Group 5. Though its atomic number is 7. Kaning valence is outside na siya. Ang oxygen pila 8, but it has 6 electrons in the outermost shell. So octet rule, atoms tend to gain or lose or share electrons to have how many electrons? 8 electrons. So your carbon would like to gain pila? Group 4 man siya. Pila ka electrons ang octet? 8. So it needs 4. Your nitrogen will gain 5 man siya, it will gain 3 electrons. Your oxygen, 6, it will gain 2 electrons. Did you get it? Okay, that's it. So why are electrons important? So elements have different electronic configuration. We had already discussed this. No? And this electronic configuration is the one needed in the bonding. Asa man? Atong outermost shell. Okay. So here, lithium, beryllium, so on, and so forth. Katong outermost shell, maoy basis sa atong grouping sa ila group. Why is it? It belongs to group 1. Ang lithium, kay ang outermost shell niya is 1. Ang sodium, why it belongs to group 1? Because tanang outermost shell niya 1. Why is it that beryllium belongs to group 2? Outermost shell niya is 2. Magnesium 2. Ana siya. Fluorine, how many? Outside, 7. Chlorine, how many? 7. Okay. So the behavior of the elements, why it is being grouped this way? Because of its what? The electrons in the outermost shell. Okay. So this is now the dot. Okay. So what are chemical bonds? Okay. Chemical bonds are an attempt to fill electron shell. How many? There are 3. First is ionic. Second is covalent. Third is metallic. Okay. In ionic bond, what is it? It is a transfer of electron. Okay, so these are sodium, chlorine, potassium, aluminum. Kaning nga formula nga niya is, asa may na 1 ani. Learning check ni siya. Kaning sodium, potassium, because it belongs to group what? Group 1. What ni labot. Okay. So, B. So, would be the electron that formula. Okay. Assignment din nga nung ako assignment na. Mga assignment. So, ionic bond. It's a bond formed between 2 ions by transfer of electron. As I have said, it should be a metal plus non-metal. Okay. So, ionic compound results when metal reacts with non-metal. Asa may mo loss? Of course, it's the metal that will lose electron. Electron of matched number of valence electron on their nearest noble gas. Kaya kinala 8 electrons siya. Then, positive ions will form. Basta ang metal mo loss, kung sa to siya, mahimo siyang positive ion. Okay. So, group 1A will lose 1 electron. It will have positive 1. Group 2, it will have positive 2, positive 3 for group 3. So, for instance, for sodium, what's this? Okay. Remaining time daw. Okay. Sodium, that is 11. Okay. So, sobra siya. What will happen? It will lose 1 electron. Okay. Magnesium, it will lose 2 electrons to come up with the octet rule. So, group 1 is siya, group 2, group 3. Okay. So, learning check ni, assignment again. Wala may solution. Sige na lang. Ditaan na. So, how about if it is a non-metal with a non-metal? In ionic compound, non-metal 15, 16, 17 gain electrons to form from metal. So, non-metal add electrons to achieve octet rule. So, this non-metal will have a charge of negative 3, negative 2, or negative 1. Instance, our fluorine has 7. So, pila may kinahanglan niya? 1. Kaya make it into 8. So, that is ionic bond. Ionic bond between atoms of metals and non-metals. Pangani? Picture. So bond form here is the transfer of electrons. So you will produce ions. And they are good conductors of heat at high melting points. For instance, this one, example here, this one. So that is an example. Take a look here. When sodium combines with chlorine, sodium group 1, chlorine group 7. So your sodium will transfer here, no? And your sodium will have a positive 1 charge and your chlorine will have a negative 1 charge. Why? Because your sodium lost an electron, 1 electron. Your chlorine gains 1 electron. What kind of an attraction? It is electrostatic attraction. Okay, that is it. Char. That is ionic bond. Okay. So here is the electronic configuration, how it is being done. Kamu na lang bahala, tanawan ninyo. Okay, so as I have said, here in ionic bond, your sodium transferred 1 atom or 1 electron to chlorine. This causes imbalance in each atom, wherein your sodium becomes sodium positive ion and your chlorine will have a negative 1 ion. Okay. How about covalent bond? Covalent bond is sharing of electrons. So, as I have said, between non-metallic, meaning a non-metal and another non-metal. Okay. It should have similar electronegativity. Okay. So, it is being formed by sharing of electrons. And they are non-conductors of heat and electricity. Example for this one. Diatomic oxygen, carbon dioxide, that is ethane, water, and silicon carbide. Okay. So, for instance, what's this? Maunay sharing. This is a covalent bond. Share siya. Di pala ganina nga yung transfer. No? So, they will share an electron. That's covalent bond. So, bonds in all polyatomic ions and diatomic ions are all covalent bonds. No? So, there are 2 types of covalent bonds. Electrons are shared. Non-polar covalent bond when it is shared equally. So for instance, hydrogen, diatomic hydrogen. So mag-share ang usa ka electron sa hydrogen hydrogen ra ang duha. Ang chlorine, pila to? 7, ang usa, 7. So, ang sa tunga nila, mag-share. So, pag-cover ni mo asa, usa ka chlorine, 8 na ni siya. Pag-cover ni mo speaker's chlorine, 8 yapon siya ka dots or 8 ka electrons. Okay? Here it is. Oxygen and oxygen. 6 ba yung oxygen, di ba? Okay. So, what happened? Kaling duha niya is being shared. Okay. One. Happen is that's O2. Okay. Balik sa asa man to? Let us go back. Ano mo lang English, go back. Okay. So, for water, we have, what's the formula of water? H2O. Okay. Your oxygen, how many electrons in the oxygen? Oxygen belongs to group 6. So, butangin ninyo. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pila ka atoms sa hydrogen? Duha. So, ang usa ka hydrogen, mo share nga niya. Ang usa ka hydrogen, mo share nga niya. Cover ninyo ning duha, wala sa ning duha. Pila ka electrons sa tanan sa oxygen? There will be 8. This 2, 4, 6, 8. I-cover po ninyo ni wapa sa nilabot ang oxygen, pila ka electrons? Duha. Nga hipot, duha ka electrons. Why? Because these two electrons here is being shared with the first hydrogen. These electrons here again, two electrons here is being shared with your second hydrogen. And what kind of a bond is that? It is polar. Nga naman, it is equally shared. So water is polar molecule nga naman because oxygen is more electronegative than hydrogen. Therefore, electrons are pulled closer to oxygen and they have equal sharing of electrons. So the next one is metallic, from the word metals. Unfound in metals, they hold metal atoms together very strongly. So metallic bond, okay, 14 atoms of metallic elements, electron clouds are around it, and they are good conductors. All of the characteristic of metals, equal sodium, iron, aluminum, gold, and cobalt. Take a look here. That is metallic bonds. So, mga bones, no? So what happened? So there will be a sea of electron. It's a cloud. So, and it will form into a metal alloy. No? Kani ato mga sing-sing, kani ato mga necklace are being formed by metallic bond. They are formed by means of an alloy. So metals do not combine with metals. They form which in a solution of metal in a metal, silver, bronze, and so on. Okay? So let us move on to formula weight. We had already discussed this in the first chapter. What is formula weight? Is the sum of the atomic masses. Kaya feel sa atong discussion. So for instance, carbon, which has one atom, oxygen has two atoms, and the name of this is carbon dioxide. So its formula weight, let us get the mass. Your carbon, go to the atomic weight. It has an atomic weight of 12.001. Your oxygen, it has 15.994 or 16. Okay. Then, you can have it by, multiply it by 2. Pwede na. Therefore, the formula weight of carbon dioxide is 43.99 atomic mass unit. One minute na lang. Naka-picture na kasi ila? Okay. So, let us compute this. Okay. For sodium chloride, round it to the second. Okay. Therefore, this is, what kind of a bond is this? It is a ionic. Why? Because this is a metal and a non-metal. Okay. Therefore, sodium has 23 point something. Your chlorine has